Support for this podcast comes from Zuri Food, all natural, all human grade dog food, offering 4 different diets to optimize nutrition for your pup, and now 2 different kinds of dog treats as well. Visit www.zurifood.com today to order yours, because pups are people too.
Long time ago, when I was lost and falling, lost again. You don't know what you don't have to. You lose your best friend. Thought it was right to listen to my heart. We should know better. We were wrong from the start. He was my brother. Used to be.
All right, well, here we are.
Yeah.
Guitar Cast. Not exactly really sure what episode number this is yet, but
1 million.
it's episode 1 million. Let's put this one in the can for a while.
Been doing this for 27 years.
It's Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah.
We're here at Studio Expo. That's what I call it.
I mean, I see the train, the expo line going
Yes.
right past the window.
Hopefully we don't hear the train too much, but it's there. All right, so my guest today, Zach Lupetin from the Dustbowl Revival.
Hi, how are you?
How's it going, Zach?
All right.
Thanks for doing this, man.
Of course.
And you are starting a podcast too, is that right?
It seems to be the thing to do.
Yes, it is.
I have been threatening for the better part of a year. I've been kind of a podcast junkie, I think, since, God, probably about 5 years or more. I think when you're in a touring band, it's really a lifesaver.
Yeah.
On long drives, it keeps you awake, keeps you alert, keeps you learning things.
Totally.
So I've been sort of I'm feeling like a podcast ambassador to people. Like, there's people who literally
Spreading the good news.
don't know what they are.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Still, like, I had to explain to a friend from high school. I went to high school in Chicago, and we're all spread out all over the country now. And this friend who I'd reconnected with, and she came to a show of Dustbowl Revivals in Delaware, of all places. The only show we've ever played in Delaware.
Say, yeah.
We opened
big
for
scene in Delaware?
the infamous String Dusters
cool.
at this like weird beach venue, and she came down with her husband. I think they're both chefs, like out on the Eastern Shore there, and had a great time. Had some beers, and then I posted on my Facebook like, I'm finally gonna do it. I'm starting this podcast, and she's like, "Yeah, you're gonna have to explain to me like what a podcast is again. I always forget. Like,
Yeah.
do I buy it?"
Right.
Like
is it on the radio?
Is it like a TV show that I have to have a networked?
Do I need to follow it and catch up to a certain episode?
And I literally had this 20-minute conversation on Facebook Messenger with her, explaining to her what it was and why she should care about them.
Yeah.
She had never heard of Spotify.
Wow.
She had never heard of like a podcast app.
Who is this person?
And now I was like, wait, where is Rhode Island? Like, is it like in Mars or something?
Yeah. I mean, it's relatively speaking, it is a pretty new, media. But at the same time, podcast's been around for 10 years.
Well, yeah, I was like, look, you know what This American Life is? We're from Chicago.
Yes.
She's like, oh yeah,
Well, that's the best way I've found to explain what it is. It's because to people who don't know anything about it, I say, well, it's basically like radio shows on demand.
Yeah.
It's
like you can DVR your shows, you can DVR your podcasts. But I think also the wealth of ridiculous content that's out there.
Yeah.
Are we supposed to be talking about guitars right now?
No, not really. I mean, that's the other thing. It's like I started off thinking, Guitar Cast. I've got a lot of friends who are guitar players. I'm a guitar player. It'd be cool to pick some tunes and that kind of thing. But
There's a lot of guitar nerds out there.
well, yeah, and once I started doing it, I realized that I'm going to run out. Not really, but I'm going to get to the end of the line with all the guitar players that I know, and so I have been having on like bass players, keyboard players. I'm probably going to get some friends of mine who are like engineer producers. So it's kind of just all things music podcast.
Sweet.
But so yeah, tell me a little bit about the Dustbowl Revival. I mean, I met you guys kind of coming up at the same time as my old band, the Get Down Boys, playing a lot of the same venues, and you guys, I think, had already been around for a couple of years when I first was introduced to you guys. But tell me a little bit about the band.
So Dustbowl Revival, I guess, was formed sort of by accident, where I posted this Craigslist ad around 2008.
All great bands start on Craigslist.
I mean, it was a more innocent time in 2008.
So many, yeah.
But I moved out to LA from Chicago. Well, I went to college in Michigan and then kind of drove out here seeking fame and fortune, more following a lady at the time, which was a bizarre idea.
A lot, yeah.
But you know, I had been in bands more in rock and roll and blues stuff in Chicago, you know, since I was 13, you know.
Yeah.
And it was always this sort of obsession sort of thing that I did, you know, making posters and playing weird dives and just like having that as this thing that wouldn't go away. I had to do it. But I didn't really know anybody in LA. So, you know, posted this Craigslist ad, and then a lot of really talented, sort of diverse people came out of the woodwork, and we started playing around town, and it was more initially a project of sort of having a revolving cast of characters around my weird sort of folk blues gospel songs, and we would have up to 20 people who would play with us.
Yeah,
it was kind of a bizarre, in retrospect, idea that you would have a band that's completely unknown or, you know, with no budget, but you also wanted to have like 10 people.
Yeah.
And for some reason that didn't really cross my mind at the time.
Yeah.
Like that was like, usually you start with a couple people and then you get famous and then you add in the big band.
Right. This was
and
just
we were
a
just like, let's just
free-for-all.
like all have, because I think I wanted to have this New Orleans roots kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was kind of obsessed with 30s big band and swing and Western swing and like, you know, Bob Wills and Texas Playboys with the horns and the strings together.
Totally.
Didn't really know how that would happen, but got pretty lucky. Had some folks who joined with me, and who some of them are still chugging along with me from that original Craigslist ad. So it's technically like our 10-year anniversary this year, but I would say the band really started to pick up some steam around 2012, 2013 when I got laid off from my advertising job.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
It's the best thing that ever happened. No, it was one of those things where it was sort of this thing where the universe was giving you permission to just like see what happens.
Totally.
And we were starting to play, you know, up and down the West Coast and Midwest a little bit, and I think being young and ignorant is good for you sometimes, because you're just like, we're gonna just.
When you don't know what you don't know,
we're going to do it, and it's
all energy.
It's fun, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, I think got lucky in that the festival circuit, you know, especially in the bluegrass and jam world, kind of embraced us to a point. Even though we were neither fully a bluegrass or a jam type band, but I think they appreciate the roots mashup thing that's happening more than a lot of people. They're very open-minded.
That crowd is very giving and very open-minded. And it's a lot of those bands get that label, a jam band, which is sort of a bad word. But I think that comes from, that's sort of just an umbrella term. I think a lot of those bands, if you really break it down, they are a blues band that jams, or they're a rock band that jams, or they're a reggae band that, you know what I mean? So in those festivals, the eclectic factor is like through the roof, and so I could imagine that you guys would get.
Well, I remember, especially when I was sort of managing the band myself, and I would write these fake, these emails from a fake name.
Sure.
You know,
I've done that
when we didn't have an agent and whatever. I was like, this is a Jackson, you know, Ford of the Dustbowl Revival. I manage this group, and we have a New Orleans funk folk mashup here, and we'd like to come to your traditional folk fest.
Right.
And they were like, you got trombone and drums?
And,
like,
yeah.
son, like, this isn't what we do here. You know, and they were honest about it sometimes. We were like, what are you talking to us for? You know?
Yeah.
And then the jazz festival people would be like, well, you got like a fiddle and a mandolin? Like, I don't think this is really right. But now I think a lot of those festivals are very open-minded, and especially since we've stuck around long enough, and I think they want to see bands that are just a breath of fresh air sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, and I really appreciate people, you know, like what you guys were doing, the Get Down Boys, are just who are doing the real
Super
thing.
traditional, yeah.
Because that's actually even more difficult sometimes to pull off, because we're not from Kentucky or from, you know, it's like you're kind of pretending in a way, but if the music hits you hard enough, it kind of doesn't matter. It feels right.
Sure.
You know?
And like a great example that I like to that reminds me of that kind of sentiment is that there are some hardcore traditional bluegrass string bands in Japan.
Yeah.
And they take it really seriously, because the music is powerful to them, you know?
When I first started playing guitar, I mean, I'm a totally self-taught guitar player, so I wouldn't advise anyone to attempt to do what I do. And it's more of a rhythm, kind of percussive instrument as a backbone to writing songs. You know, I feel like I'm more of a writer than a guitar player. But I wanted to find something where I could fit, or I could actually contribute to the canon of music.
Yeah.
And I, you know, as much as I loved bebop and you know, shredding blues and stuff like that, I was like, that's never gonna be me. Like, I just, like, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
But I felt like some of this sort of folk gospel New Orleans stuff that had a little more of a
Soul.
funky, soulful,
Yeah.
but also sometimes just four chords and the truth thing. I felt like I could maybe slip in there.
Yeah.
You know, like I could do some of that.
Yeah.
Or at least I could create songs where the group around me could really blossom with that style, you know.
That's one of the cool things I think about the Dustbowl Revival. You guys do a great job of highlighting each instrument and each player, and there's like a couple songs where fiddle and mandolin are like spotlighted, and then there's songs where the horns are spotlight, and then, you know, you do a good job of like representing all those things. So on one hand, it's a mashup of sorts, yes, but also within the set, there is some straight up bluegrass stuff, and there is some straight up funk horn kind of soul.
Well, I think, it depends what kind of show we're playing. If it's a longer, you know, big festival set and we got to stretch out a little bit, you know, it's hard to deny like a raging bluegrass song with a bunch of really excited people in a field. It's just like they want to feel that and to dance to that.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you're in a kind of dark nightclub and you're like, we're just going to do the New Orleans kind of funky stuff. And it's finding the stuff that connects both of those that have been sort of the evolution of what Dust Bowl sound has become, where we are finding these songs unique to us and our instrumentation, especially with, you know, me and Liz BB singing harmonies, and then the string section on one side, the horn section, and the rhythm section. And that's something that we're still kind of experimenting with, but this record we put out 6 months ago, just self-titled Dust Bowl Revival record, finally I think we focused a little more on like what is the thing that is our sound, not sort of creating something that's bluegrass adjacent or New Orleans funk adjacent. It's like Dust Bowl sound, right? And I think that came through partially because this guy, our producer Ted Hutt, was like, let's cut the crap, and you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off in 10 directions, which is partially what makes you fun as a live act, but as a record, as a listening experience,
more cohesive.
can we focus more on just these emotional kind of relationship songs and the falling in and out of love and that sort of the crux of growing up and getting a little older and wiser and knowing that that can be expressed through this sort of soulful folk thing. And that's been a really cool evolution.
Well, and you guys have made a lot of records, right? I mean, maybe how many do you have? And some of them I would imagine are more indie stuff that you did back in the day, but
I think there's about 5 in some form.
So it takes, through those 5 records, that's how you arrived at kind of where you're at describing that,
Yeah, I mean, I think you also have to, you could see the trends of the time, we're not the only band, I think, that's feeling this sort of soul revival happening.
Yeah.
It's like something in the water right now.
Pretty big thing.
But also acknowledging that, like, we're not a soul band. Like, because there's people who do that really well.
Right.
You're not going to be the Dap Kings.
Right.
But I think feeling that that the soul base is what kind of drives a lot of the stuff, because really that's soul music is just like emotional music.
Yeah.
It's like getting to the heart of the matter type thing,
Yeah.
And if you have a horn section, you kind of want to try it a little bit,
Yeah, I mean, that's the horns to soul is like the banjo to bluegrass. It's just like totally encapsulates that sound. And you guys, so list the instruments in the band for me.
Okay, so we have Daniel Mark, who plays mandolin, and though our string section has been experimenting recently with a lot of pedals and various things.
Okay.
So he's been doing some stuff where the mando almost acts like a hip hop keyboard in certain things, where it has this
like
echoey
a sample.
kind of and Daniel kind of grew up listening to a lot of hip hop.
Well,
Apparently,
he was like a bona fide rapper, from what he's told me.
he likes to beatbox on occasion.
Yeah.
Connor Vance plays the fiddle, also kind of going through some wah pedals and different things where, depending on the feel of the song, it can be real natural or it can be Jimi Hendrix, who's like his hero. So the drums, Josh Heffernan, and he's been pushing us to do this more funk grounded thing for a long time. James Klopfleisch on upright bass, and he likes to experiment because he's a experimental composer at times. He went to Cal Arts. So he's got
well, I did catch his baby monitor concerto the other night there.
He's a character. So Ulf Bjorlin on trombone, Matt Rubin on trumpet, and they'll kind of work together to flesh out the horn parts, and Matt is a really good composer. I mean, some of these guys have master's degrees in composition, so they're way more educated than me, and they, can make the songwriting process really complex, which kind of is frustrating at times because I'm just like, this is a blues, guys.
Yeah, feel it,
But he's also the guy who can bring in a chord in a song that transforms the song. Yeah. That I'm like, I never would have thought of that.
Yeah.
And who I'm missing? Liz Beebe sings and plays ukulele. And she's starting to write some tunes with me. It's not easy having an 8-piece band touring full time, but it's like kind of what we've been doing. So it's like, it's our thing.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty cool. I've got your tour here. So how many shows did you guys play last year, do you think?
It's somewhere in like the 100, 150 range.
Pretty busy.
Though there's, you don't list private events or, weird other things.
Right. So, coming up, you got Chicago, Kalamazoo, Columbus, Ohio, Athens, Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio, Kent, Ohio.
What up, Ohio?
Yeah. Detroit, L.A. So you got the Troubadour on 17th of February.
That should be fun.
You guys have done the Troubadour a few times, right?
We did. We recorded most of our live record Lampshade on there.
Cool.
So it is kind of a special place for us.
Cool. And another thing I want to ask you about, a few years ago you guys had a video with Dick Van Dyke that got, kind of went viral.
Yeah.
How did that come together? Like, what was that all about?
We kidnapped him and
okay.
put him in a room. No, he...
seemed like he was in a great mood for somebody who's been
he's a big
kidnapped.
music fan. He saw us accidentally at like some friend of a friend's event in Long Beach, and it was one of those just surreal situations for me as a person who probably grew up watching Mary Poppins once a week for like 10 years as a child.
Right.
And I remember there's this open dance floor. No one was dancing to our stuff, and we were playing a little more of like some older swing and jazz stuff, which is totally in his wheelhouse. And we see this like silver-haired man in a white suit, just like tearing up the dance floor by himself.
Right.
Like, no one with him, and he's just loving it, And we're like, "Does that guy look familiar to you?" And Daniel, our mandolin player, is like, "What? I think that's Dick Van Dyke from Mary Poppins," And I, of course, being an idiot, was like, "Isn't he dead?"
Yeah.
It's like 6 years
ago.
ago.
Guys that you're not really. Like,
Well, it's like he's got to be real old,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And he was about, I think, almost 90 at the time, and he just looked so sprightly.
Sure.
I was able to talk to him for a little bit, and he came to a couple shows with his wife, Arlene. They came to the show where we opened for the Preservation Hall Jazz Band at the Ford Theater, and she sent me an email to sort of thank us, or I don't know, say like great show. And so I had their contact info. And then when we were trying to figure out a video idea for the Lampshade On record we were releasing, and most of our videos, it's like, well, we don't have much budget.
Yeah.
Will anyone watch this? And Josh, our drummer, was like, why don't you just like email Dick Van Dyke's wife? Or like just see what happened. I don't know. Maybe he'll do it. And it wasn't like any hesitation. They were like, yeah.
Absolutely.
And we were initially trying to get them to come and be on this Lampshade On video, which was going to be shooting in Echo Park, and it was this whole setup with a crew. And they were like, yeah, no, but you should just come to our house in Malibu.
Even better.
So we literally went there for a few hours. He danced around, made everybody laugh, went home. 5-second films, which is a weird little crew that puts these tiny videos together. Yeah. They basically edited it, and it went on YouTube. So it's pretty unexpected.
Cool.
How much it went around the world for a second there.
Yeah.
It's a little like, you got to be real. It's like about him,
Well, yeah.
People like the music to a point, but like you're watching Dick dance at 90 years old. So,
but it's not like people still had positive reaction to the band.
Well, it was inspiring for, I think, a lot of people saying like, you never stop having fun, and we've been able to stay in contact with them, and they're very sweet, down to earth people. So,
cool.
Though I feel like the song doesn't fully represent what Dustbowl does, because it's very kind of bluegrass pop, straight ahead. So we try to like steer people into other parts of our catalog.
Yeah.
Because I think that's always the problem with the internet, is people fixate on a couple things, and they're like, oh, well, they're a bluegrass pop band, right?
Or that might be 5 years old.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever video you're watching might be ancient history. So I would say to anybody listening, the best way to figure out what the Dustbowl Revival is all about is to go see you guys play live.
Totally.
Dustbowlrevival.com.
That's it.
Let's play a Dustbowl song. What do you got?
Kind of want to do this new tune we're working on. We haven't really played this live yet, but I think we're going to soon. It's kind of a melancholy soul love song in a way. more of a maybe a love song for a lost friend than a lover.
And this is yet to be recorded?
We have not recorded this yet. It's possible that it could be on the next record, but it's something that I keep singing to myself, and I hope gets out there someday. It's called Sarah's Song.
Cool.
1, 2, 3.
Well, we was hanging out since the age of 10, listening to Funkadelic and smoking Parliaments. When I ran out of money, he sold his bike. I got ourselves a tune, we called him Magic Mike. He was my brother. Long time ago, when we moved to the city, we tried to get along. He was making movies, I was trying to write these songs down. He met Sarah and everything changed. She had the kind of smile to make a man get rearranged. He was my brother. Long time ago, when I was lost and I found and lost again. You don't know what you don't have to. You lose your best friend. Thought it was right to listen to my heart. We should know better. We were wrong from the start. He was my brother. Used to be. The first time we went out, it was like we were driving on Mars. We didn't say nothing at all. We were just kissing in her car. Oh, something about her taste made me forget about all the lies. And then we pulled up to his house, and I started wondering why. When I called him up when my conscience began to bend, I said, meet me at the diner. He said, I'll meet you there in 10 minutes. I was crying in my coffee, couldn't look him in the eye. He said, I love Sarah. I said, so do I. He was my brother. Long time ago. Well, you know how it happens when people drift away. You start talking less even though you have so much more to say. I married Sarah, made her my wife. He wrote us a postcard, he said, have a nice life. He was my brother. Oh, used to be. Well, I was lost and I found and lost again. You don't know what you don't have to. You lose your best friend. Thought it was right to listen to my heart. We should know better. We were wrong from the start. It was my brother. Used to be.
Well, Zach, thanks for being here and doing this, man.
Sure.
And good luck on your next outing with the band.
Yeah, man.
Hope you guys have another great year.
2018, when it all happens.
Yeah, exactly. And best of luck on your podcast, too.
It's called The Show on the Road.
The Show on the Road.
Launching soon. Not sure where and when, but you never know.
Cool. Well, thanks again, and thanks everybody for listening. We will see you next time.